basically, what the, yeah. This was the flyer that was posted at New Jersey State Prison. As you can see, it just says Tyrone Powers, who he was, what he's going to speak on, where it's at, and it gives a brief biography of Tyrone Powers with his picture. The supervisor that was stopped by another officer and asked as to why he was taking the flyer down, he said that he felt that this was racist and he was offended by it. Now, I also have to tell you that the press release that you read, if some of you read the press release that was given in the Trenton Times, the press release was posted right under this flyer. But again, there was nothing other than a little background on Tyrone Powers. After removing the flyer, the officer that caught the supervisor suggested to him that he speak to me, because he told him that I was the one that was putting him up, and if he had a problem, perhaps he should address that problem to me. No one approached me, but again, I was not too concerned about who was taking them down. I just kept putting them back up. When I brought it to the administrator's attention, he mentioned to me that a captain, like I said, had said 2 a-holes had come to him. Now, this captain is European. He then asked the administrator to come and take a look at the flyer with him, and they would make a determination. So they went over by the locker room. They both read the flyer. Then the captain turned to the administrator and asked him, "Are you offended?" The administrator said, "No, I'm not. Are you?" The captain said, "No, I'm not." He says, "Well, then we'll use the reasonable person standard to determine whether we're going to do anything with this, and since we're not offended, I'm not going to do anything." Now, again, the administrator, when I talked to him, he relayed all of this to me. And then the administrator asked the captain, "Do you know who's putting those flyers up?" The captain said, "No." The administrator said, "Well, I do." Because unbeknownst to those people that were taking the flyer down, I had given the administrator at New Jersey State Prison a flyer about 3 weeks before the lecture come down. And I had also asked him for permission to take Special Agent Powers on a tour of the prison. And he had agreed to that also. So with that, I just left the situation alone. But apparently, after the administrator had spoken to the captain must have went back to whoever else it was that was doing that, because the flyer stopped coming down. So again, that's just an anecdote. One other small story. And my brother was coming down Route 1 from Staples, picking up the programs or some other flyers last night, and he was pulled over by a state trooper. After the state trooper pulled him over and asked him for his credentials, 3 Trenton police officers pulled up. They then told my brother, after running a check on him, that he was a fugitive from Baltimore, Maryland. Tyrone Powers is from Baltimore. My brother says he's never traveled out of state. He's never been arrested in his life. So they then ran another check and said that you have an outstanding warrant for an unpaid ticket in Bordentown. We grew up in Bordentown. My brother said, "I've paid anything that's been resolved with Bordentown has been paid." So they wrote him out a ticket, I think for being on the suspended list because he said of the outstanding warrant, and then gave him another slip of paper about something, and I can't remember right now. But then they let my brother go after giving the ticket and told him to explain to the municipal court judge that he had resolved and bring whatever documentation he had, that he had resolved the complaint and was over. So when they started to leave, my brother asked him, "Well, what about this fugitive thing in Baltimore?" They said, "Well, don't worry about it. There's probably another guy in Baltimore with your name and your social security number, so it's probably not you." And they let him go. Again, that's what he was told. So it was just, like I said, just a few anecdotes of some of the things that we've been going through leading up to this evening. We at Razak's Books are doing this for several reasons. Primarily because we want to reach out to the community in such a way that it might inspire or motivate other members of the community to get involved in whatever's going on, including some of the things that we have in mind. At our first lecture, we had New York Attorney Alton Maddox down from New York. And subsequent to that lecture, we invited people out to a meeting the next week in which they could, one, help us facilitate the future lectures, but also we'll be starting a study group and organization to do activities here in Trenton, like this lecture series and other educational type activities. As a result of that first meeting, we got about 10 or 12 people that came out to not only help us with the study group, but to help us promote the lectures and facilitate the lectures. Again, that offer will go out to you all again this evening. We'll do more announcements at the end of the proceeding, but I don't want to take up too much time from Tyrone Powers. But I also would like at this time just to let you take a note of the back of your program is a notice about next Sunday afternoon. Razak's Books will be sponsoring a video showing at the Latino Community Land Trust of Brother Jamal Omawali Gori. And his topic will be blacks, the CIA, drugs, and the African community. Brother Gori spoke on October 23rd in Brooklyn, New York at the United African Movement. And that was his topic then, and we will be showing the videotape of that lecture, and we will also have some related material out there. Just a little bit of background on this. You may have or you may not heard about the recent investigations into the CIA starting the crack epidemic by having some Nicaraguan nationals who were part of the Contras funnel cocaine to the Crips and Bloods, and basically they supplied them with enough cocaine to start the spread of crack, and at the same time they were selling these gangs weapons. So the San Jose Mercury News broke this story again, and I say again for a reason. On August 18th, they ran a 3-part series from the August 18th through the 20th of this year about this. Brother Gori, when the story broke, he was in Los Angeles. When the story broke, he was getting parts about the story, and then he ventured to San Jose and interviewed the reporter that did the story. So that will be part of the videotape presentation on Sunday, and we can get more background on that, and I'm sure that Brother Powers will probably be making some comments on that situation also. But you're all invited out next Sunday, December 22nd, for the showing of this video next Sunday, and that's free of charge. At this time, I would like to bring forward one of the brothers that stepped forward and just said that he wanted to get involved and do some things. So tonight we're going to have him do the introduction of Brother Powers. Again, I've just met this brother recently. He has come right on board, gotten right involved with the different things that we want to do in the community, and I'd like to bring him forward at this time, Brother James Green.
Tyrone Powers, educator, former law enforcement officer, and author of Eyes to My Soul, The Rise or Decline of a Black FBI Agent, resides in Baltimore, Maryland. Married and the father, Mr. Powers is committed and lecturer, extensive criminal justice acumen, amassed over 13, made him a well-known voice of the consciousness within the black law enforcement community and the emerging force of enlightenment for black people and Americans in general. In 1982, Mr. Powers was one of the youngest recruits serving in the Maryland State Police. During the time Mr. Powers was employed with the Maryland State Police, he founded and was chairman of Operation Drug Out, a nationally recognized anti-drug program featured on the CBS Evening News and reported by Dan Rather. Mr. Powers also served as an assistant to the United States Congressman Perrin J. Mitchell. In December of 1985, Mr. Powers was employed as a special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. His duties included the investigation of violations of federal law and preparation of investigatory results in written form in order that violators could be adequately prosecuted. He also conducted terrorism and counterintelligence investigations. Mr. Powers was involved in the recruitment, interviewing, and selecting of special agents for the FBI and the conducting of background investigations related to same recruits. He also served as relief supervisor. Duties encompassed the supervision of approximately 15 agents while assigned to the Cincinnati division of the FBI and 24 agents in the Detroit division. Other duties involved assigning and reviewing cases of the supervised agents, preparing written communications for the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., and preparing oral briefings to supervisors. During his years as an agent, Mr. Powers said he experienced racism from the top down. He resigned in August 1994 when he was part of a federal class action lawsuit brought against the FBI by 9 black agents. The judge in the case ruled that the FBI had been racist in promotions and ordered it placed under supervision for 5 years. Upon leaving the FBI, he has taught as a professor of criminal justice and law enforcement at Anne Arundel Community College in Arnold, Maryland. He is also adjunct professor of criminal justice and public administration at Coppin State College in Baltimore. In the book, Mr. Powers paints the FBI as racist. The FBI has refused to comment on the book since its May 1996 release, and Powers says that the agency has pressured large bookstores into not selling the book. I've learned that the FBI will do anything, be it legal or extra-legal. Powers says, it was the same way it was when I was on the streets. But he says the book was less of an indictment of his former employer than a message to young people. There's a whole group of children, 5 and 6 years of age, we should be concentrating on, he says. If you get them at this age, you know what they'll be doing when they're 15 or 16. Mr. Powers visits Trenton, New Jersey this evening as the invited guest speaker of Rasad's books. He will address several vital issues, including the ongoing church burnings, CIA pipeline, COINTELPRO, past and present, as well as the plight of the black and Latino political prisoners. In addition to his lecture and discussing the book, Mr. Powers will participate in a question and answer session and book signing. It is a great pleasure for me to present to you at this time, Tyrone Powers.
How we doing?
Okay.
Now that, too much feedback.
Good evening. I'm extremely happy to be here this evening here in Trenton, and I'm extremely happy to travel across the country talking about these issues and delivering this information. The FBI obviously is not extremely happy about the information that I've been bringing forth. I think that as we go along tonight, and I will cover the issues that are listed here, you will probably have many other questions, and trust me, any questions you have, any concerns you have, I am more than willing to answer. So while I may not address everything or things that you have a question about in this lecture or in this part of the program, I am more than willing to answer them. I'm not skirting anything, and come forward, please come forward with all your questions. One good thing I've learned, I went to do a lecture over at Harriet Tubman School with Olambe Brock and the Patrice Lumumba Association. And at that particular lecture, there was a great deal of questions, and there was some concern. People came to me, and Brother Tyrone Washington and some of the other people came to me, and they were concerned that by me coming out of the belly of the beast, they had some questions even about my trustworthiness. And they were excellent questions. In fact, I even told the brother that night that these are the questions that we should ask every single person who come before us. The people who come before us have to be willing to handle the scrutiny and take on the questions that are asked of us. Because unfortunately, in our history, our recent history and our past history, too many people come out of nowhere and come before us and we don't question them. So I have no problem whatsoever, as I told him that night and I'll tell you tonight, if you question me, any concerns that you have about me, I will be more than willing to answer. I'll run for anything, because I know that what I am saying from the heart. I know that I am sincere about. I know that I have fought this battle even during the 9.5 to 10 years that I was in that agency, which made me the subject of several attacks. I have no fear whatsoever of the FBI at this particular point in my life. Even though I've gotten threats at my house, threatening telephone calls. My daughter, who was 13 years old, wrote an essay that the school sent back home to me, talking about the fears that she had because of the threatening phone calls, and she afraid that I'll go away and won't come back home. And I didn't even know she was writing this until one of the teachers sent it back home to me and saying, these are the fears that your daughter have. But that same daughter told me when we were discussing this, as I began to travel around the country one time, she said that, you know, at times I am afraid of losing my father, but at other times, if I know that if you don't go out and speak up, then I really don't have a father at all anyway. So her concerns are double. And even at 13, she realized the importance of coming out and giving the truth no matter what the consequences. And because it's more than just us involved in this. The consequences for me, certainly, and I can get into them more so later, have been pretty devastating. I mean, they raided the house of my mother and sister. This is during a time that I was with the agency, but speaking out and writing letters to the newspapers with a warrant. At the time they raided the house, they had a warrant for my deceased brother. They knew he was deceased because he had died in 1987 in police custody. And they had did a civil rights investigation at the time, so they had him listed as deceased. But they raided the house and said, we have a warrant for your deceased brother for a probation violation. He didn't show up at the probation officer's house. Now, I wasn't there. My mother and sisters was. Now, mind you, at this time, I was still an agent in the Detroit office of the FBI. But 3 months prior to this raid, I had testified against the FBI in a case where I told them about the FBI agents dressed as Klansmen at Quantico, Virginia. FBI agents failing to investigate civil rights cases and other things. I have testified about this, and this was their warning back to me, because one of the philosophies of the FBI that we need to learn more and more is that if we can't get to you, in fact, it is not always easy, or it's not always the right choice for them to get to you, because then it becomes too obvious. Then we will attack what you love the most. And the pressure that we put on what you love the most, be it your mother, father, sister, brother, child, daughter, dog, whatever you love the most, the pressure we put on them will make you back up. But I knew this philosophy. So even after they did the raid, I asked my sister to produce identification as if she could have been a deceased black man. She was to have surgery the next day. Canvassed the block, surrounded the house, did all, and then called me immediately afterward in Detroit and said, listen, we made a mistake this morning. We raided your mother and sister's home. Now, if you want us to, we will go back out there and apologize. And this wasn't a warning, this was a threat, and I know the system. But in spite of that, this happened in 1991, in spite of that, when I called back home to my mother, she said, you better not quit now. She said, you can leave that agency when you want to, but you won't leave now. Because if you leave now, they have done exactly what they wanted to do. They have brought pressure on us that they couldn't bring on you, and that have caused you to leave this particular agency. So I stayed until 1994, still causing them problems, still gathering information and still taking it out, and still withstanding their attacks, simply because at my mother's urging, I was not going to let them keep me running. And I was not going to allow them to force me into this position. So I've dealt with that. I know that kind of devastation. I had a vehicle that I was in that exploded during the time I was in the FBI after testifying about the racism and putting pressure on them and going to the press and talking about it. I had a vehicle that I was in exploded. And these are the kind of things that happen internally in that organization. To me and other agents, a few other agents who are willing to speak up, who they know that if they bring it to you, or their hope is that if they bring it to the general public, you will say, oh, no, they couldn't possibly do that. That's not happening. He couldn't possibly do it. And they know that because they have spent millions and billions of dollars on their propaganda and public relations machine so that they can convince you that they wouldn't do anything wrong and that anyone who speaks up is in the minority and this is the person. The other reason they do these things is to let any other person, any other agent, any other individual who is willing to speak up to know, see, this is what we did to him. And what we did to him made him quit. And if you do it, then we'll put the pressure on you to make you quit. That's another reason why I had to stay in there, consistently stay in there, and continue to get information on what they were doing. In the end, I truly believe that my being there, despite the hard time my brothers gave me for even joining this organization, I truly believe there was a purpose for me being there, to bring forth this information. I couldn't see it at the time, and my brothers definitely couldn't see it, because they tried to discourage me from joining, but there was certainly a purpose for me being there. I know and I suspect that almost everywhere I go, and it's not a matter of paranoia, it's just that I've been with this agency 9.5 years and I know how they work, that there are individuals in every audience, everywhere you go, who have the position or the job of reporting back to the FBI. Now, you have to understand, the FBI have recruited, since in their entire history, thousands of individuals to come back and report information to the FBI. They can entice you with anything. They entice you with money. For some people, that'll work. For other people, they entice you because you're having some kind of extramarital or failed relationship, and you will bring them information and keep them silent. They entice you because they have pictures and information on you, or with IRS tax reports. They entice you also. It has not been difficult for them to recruit individuals in the black community, even in organizations that are fighting for righteous causes, for them to report on other blacks. They did it during the 60s when the racism was blatant, and they're continuing to do it into the 90s, and now these people who would report feel even more justified now because it's not as blatant as it was in the 60s. So I suspect everywhere I go that they know what I am talking about. But that's not I don't have a fear of that, and I don't say that from a point of being paranoid or afraid, because there's a difference between being cautious and being scared. Cautious is being wise. But you have to know exactly what is there, what you're dealing with this particular organization. And again, I was in this organization, so I know it occurred. I'm not speaking as a layperson. I know how they set up. I know how they operate. I know that informants are the #1 cornerstone of that entire organization. They don't care if you ever make an arrest, as long as you have a whole list of informants that consistently give you information on every single event that occur in the black community, the Latino community, any community that they're interested in, then you will find as an agent. So I understand that, but I have no fear whatsoever of that. And we can't, as a group of people, be subjected to be locked into a concrete block affair by this organization or by any other organization. We are a group of people where we know how high our homicide rate is. We know that the University of Chicago predicted 70% of black males will be under the criminal justice system by the year 2000, and that's an underestimation because it's already at 65% under some auspices of the criminal justice system. So we cannot back up. We can't allow fear to drive us. And you look at the numbers and it tell you that 65% are in prison, and then you look at the more recent report as of earlier this week that says that teenage suicides among black males between 1984 and 1990 rose 196%. It is the third leading killer of black males now. First is accidents, homicides is first, accidents is second, and suicides. 196% increase in the rate that black males are killing themselves, the suicide rates. And that has been documented. There's a group in Atlanta that have been reporting this on a regular basis, but they said they can't get people to concentrate on the fact because we're so used to now the tough guy and the gangster rap image that we can see that the increase, the extraordinary increase of suicides, black males just giving up on life altogether and committing suicides. And they can't come up with a reason for this. In the state of Maryland alone, in the last 4 years, the suicide rate for black males, just black males, have increased 71%. Giving up. Now you've got the prison population, they're going to be at 70%, it's at 65% now, and you've got a 196% increase in the black male suicide rate. The rate of women going to prison have increased by 50%, black women, in the last 10 years. So your women are in prison, your males are killing each other or committing suicide or under the prison system. There's no reason you can't possibly justify even to yourself as you go home to have any fears about standing up for right, because you're dying anyway. They'll keep you around a little.